the beginning of Resident Evil 3 Remake review. And this will be, again, cut out of this video and uploaded to YouTube so you guys can watch it whenever you want, however you want. And a full sexy page of notes as well to go through. So we're going to use the same analysis breakdowns that I use on every other game to make it fair and to try be unbiased as possible. Because I don't want people to think, oh, he's playing a Resident Evil title, his #1 franchise of all time. He's going to be biased. He's going to give this a good scoring. And if you think that, then you don't know me at all. Because there have been many Resident Evil games that I have utterly destroyed in review periods because of how bad they were. So, we're going to go through the review template, and then we're going to go through the notes. Anything that I cover in the template, that's in the notes, I won't repeat. I'll try not to. So, the very first thing that I look into when it comes to any video game is pretty much its soundtrack. I'm a go-to soundtrack person. The audio, the effects, and the voice acting. And I can safely say 100% that Resident Evil 3 Remake has a fantastic soundtrack. And it also takes a lot from the old school Resi games as well, just to give you that little vibe of what you're playing. Especially when you enter a safe zone, you get that vibe of an old classic Resident Evil save room music going in the background, and I absolutely love it. I can't fault them in any single way. Capcom tend to do amazing soundtracks with their games, and it's Resident Evil. The majority of Resident Evil games all have incredible soundtracks, but I do cater more to the retro, old school Resident Evil games because they just have that nostalgic, just classic feel of an amazing soundtrack. It really does. But in terms of this game, the soundtrack is absolutely on point. The audio effects in the games, the guns that you use, the handgun, shotgun, the assault rifle, grenade launcher, and everything like that, all 100% on point. They sound very realistic. Even the zombie noises, the monster noises that are made. The only thing that I would say I don't like in terms of an audio effect is I just don't like the Nemesis's voice at all in this game. The voice of Nemesis in the original retro was much deeper and more dangerous sounding, and it put fear into you when you heard him. In this one, he sounds like he's been sucking on a couple of helium balloons for a while. So I don't really enjoy when he says the stars, and it doesn't give me the same sort of goosebump chills that the other the old school Nemesis does. Looking at graphics, texturing, it uses the exact same graphic engine that Resident Evil 2 used, the remake of Resident Evil 2, and the graphics engine is stunning in so many ways. It is probably one of the biggest and best things about the two remakes that have been done. Graphically, this game looks absolutely phenomenal. It really, really, really does. And I have to praise Capcom for utilizing this engine in a great way. I am curious to know what more they're going to do with it and how they're going to improve on this engine instead of staying safe and using the same thing over and over again. We already know that Resident Evil 8 is in the works, and they're probably going to utilize the exact same engine. So I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they use the same engine, but it's been improved. We'll just have to see how it plays out when they actually showcase trailers, demos, or even the actual game of Resi 8. Weather effects, character model design, glitches and bugs. Weather effects, there's not a lot of it. There really isn't. I mean, you get a bit of rain. Your character gets dirty itself. You can actually see the wear and tear in Jill. But there isn't like snow, thunder and lightning or anything. I mean, thunder and lightning would have been great, but no, there's none of that in this sort of game. Is it a missed opportunity? No, because, you got the ambience of the city, you got the fire blazing, and you got the lighting of the fire flickering off the stuff. It looks absolutely fantastic. Glitches and bugs. During the 5 playthroughs that we did one easy mode run. Not at the beginning. We actually started off on normal, but after I done my normal playthrough, I did an easy mode playthrough as a practice speed run. Then I went and done hardcore. Then I went back to normal mode and then another normal mode. So I did 5 runs in total. And I didn't really notice any sort of game breaking or any sort of just stupid bugs that were fully annoying. The dodge system takes a lot of getting used to itself, but every now and again you feel like you're pushing the button and it doesn't actually give you the execution of the dodge itself. And I don't think that's a bug or anything like that. I just think that's just down to timing. We had a few zombies, T-posing and doing some funny poses with their legs sticking up or their arms sticking up and jittering. But I don't want to knock any points off because of something like that, because it's minor to not even important, really. It's more comedic than anything else. So in terms of glitches and bugs, I didn't really experience through the 5 playthroughs anything that I would say, yeah, this game is definitely broken, it needs fixing. And Resident Evil 2 was basically the same point. Resident Evil 2 played out incredibly well, and I can't remember any bugs or glitches in that game that impacted the actual gameplay. Gameplay and mechanics. If you're accustomed to Resident Evil 2, you're going to be automatically a customer of Resi 3. Simple as that. Because they utilize a lot of the same inventory mechanics, item mechanics, combining mechanics. It's all pretty much the same concept. But there are some things that are missing, and that's something that we'll talk about in a minute. But overall, the gameplay is, it's a rush. It's fun and it's explosive. There's so much going on sometimes, and Nemesis in the remake is extremely aggressive, very fast compared to the old school Nemesis that we're accustomed to. He jumps all over the place. He uses his tentacle whip to pull you in and grab you in certain corners. So you've got to be quite careful. You do, and that's why if you're going to play this for the first time, probably play it on easy mode if you're not accustomed to Resident Evil games. If you are accustomed to games though, and you are familiar with the Resident Evil series, then probably play it on normal like I did. But the mechanics of the game and the way that the game plays out itself is pretty similar to what you would have already experienced in Resident Evil 2. It works exceptionally well. It's very easy to master, and I don't think you'll find any issues with it at all. Any game customization and stats building. There are no stats building in this because it's not like an RPG experience where you can level up your health, you can level up your armor, your items and stuff like that. You can't do that in this game. You can upgrade your guns with certain modifications, but that's not really an RPG experience, so stats building isn't really relevant. But the customization, you can actually change and alter your character's skins. There are, at the moment, I think 3 Jill skins that you can get. One of them you get with a pre-order, which would have been her classic Nemesis skin. You got the Stars outfit and her default outfit. And with Carlos, you have his standard outfit and then his retro Nemesis outfit as well, which basically gives him the better, a shorter haircut. And I just don't like how Carlos' hair looks. It looks like a fucking wet mop. It's disgusting. But that's just my opinion. But in terms of customization, like I said, you've just got character skins and you've got weapon upgrades. That's pretty much it. Once you've completed the game, you'll gain access to a shop where you can buy even more bonus items to put into the game, like an attack coin to increase your damage, defense coin to increase your defense, and a healing coin to regenerate your health over time. Again, not really RPG elements at all, but they do benefit you with your playthroughs because they don't affect your grading at the end of the level. So you can have all the bonus items in your inventory and go Hambo like Rambo with the infinite ammo guns and not worry that your scoring is going to be affected, because it's all based around timing and how quick you are within the game. Story. So we've been quite positive from the beginning of this review up until this point. Now, this is where it starts to take a flat line. The story, yes, was good, but was predictable, bland. Well, there just wasn't enough of it. There really wasn't. There is a lackluster of content in this story. And something that really, really irritates me beyond belief is the fact that they've cut so much out of the game. We actually did a Resident Evil Nemesis retro playthrough before we jumped into this remake, so we could see a direct comparison between the two games. And I'd say about 70%, maybe more, of what was in the retro version of the game is cut and removed from the remake. And that, to me, is extremely frustrating and very disappointed overall. There are some very key, iconic areas that you go to in the retro version, which I would have loved to have seen. For example, the clock tower, which is a very iconic area in the retro version, is missing. The Gravedigger boss is missing from the game itself. The park was missing pretty much. City Hall, graveyard, spiders were cut out again. I really don't understand why Capcom are not putting the spiders back in. They removed the spiders from Resident Evil 2 remake, and they also removed the spiders from Resi 3 remake. And that's really frustrating, because they were fearful in the retro games. They were really, when you saw them or when you heard them, they were very fearful, and they were very dangerous at certain points, especially if you got poisoned by the spiders, for example. But they didn't bother putting them in at all. No crows in this as well, and you get a lot of the crows in the retro version. Jill never enters the stars. Jill never enters the RPD building whatsoever, which doesn't make any sense, because she has a part. She has a part to play in the retro version of her entering the building. But for some reason, they're like, nah, Carlos is going to go in there instead. And I just don't understand. There are so many massive, massive iconic moments just completely ripped out of the game. And it really does impact my review quite heavily, because I was really excited and was really looking forward to those massive iconic moments. I mean, where were the puzzles? There was hardly any puzzles in this game. Honest to God, there was, let's just map a train. Let's put a few gems into a clock piece, which was basically an Easter egg from the retro version. But other than that, so many puzzles are missing in these remakes. It's killing the game. This is something that's always been about Resident Evil, having the puzzles. So you sit there and you've got to think, over and over again, what is the code, or what is this? I have no idea. And that's a real kick in the nads for me. A massive kick. Because I love my puzzles in the old school Resi games, and I expected them to be in the remakes. That's something itself that could have furthered the amount of game time that's needed. And unfortunately, this game really doesn't have it. It doesn't. Online co-op modes, if available, none. There is no online, there is no co-op modes whatsoever. You can compare leaderboards with each other, but that's it. Purchase price versus digital price and value of content. This is where this is yeah. First of all, do I feel this game has value for content? No. Nowhere near it. No. This is not a £50 game. This is not a £40 game. At all. Not at all. $29.99 maybe, but this is not a £40 or £50 game. Or if you're across the pond, $50 or $60. No way. Not at all. Because this game, if you are not a completionist and you only care about completing it once and that's it, this game has zero replayability in it for you. Unless you are a collectionist and you want to pick up absolutely everything, unlock all the rest of the items and all that lot, then there is replayability for you. This game lacks in content massively, and on a average playthrough, you're going to be done between 5 to 7 hours, and you're out. That's it. You're done. That's it. And it's then going to sit on the shelf, and you're probably never going to play it again for a while. But if you are a completionist and you want to get S ranks across the board and you want to unlock all the items possible, then it has that replay value, but it still does not justify a £40 to £50 price point at all. I think Capcom made a massive mistake pricing this game up. And just bear in mind, the Statue Collector's Edition is £215. And I'm still waiting for it to be shipped. Still waiting for it. This game does not have value for content at all. It's missing way too much, and it does not justify its current pricing, in my opinion. Any microtransactions and DLC, there's going to be. There's going to be DLC for obviously maybe some skins or something like that. But if Capcom, if they do DLC, it needs to be free. You cannot charge someone £50 for this game and say, well, you know, it took you 7-8 hours to complete the main game, but we're also going to charge you now for all the DLC too. Don't do that. Honestly, Capcom, if you want to be good in my books, and if you want to, you know, shed a little bit of light on people who might get upset about this, give all the DLC that you've got to offer, just give it to them for free. You've made money off of them already for 50 quid's worth of a game that's not really worth it. And you're also, you know, £215 for a Statue Edition. Come on, think about it. Now, the notes. So I'm going to try and make sure that I don't reread anything that I've already talked about. So standard edition of the game, I could go into the shops right now and pick up this game for £40. Digital is £50. So if you bought it off of the Xbox store or something like that, you're looking at 50 quid, $60 in American terms. The main game is 22 gig large, but it requires you to install the 23 gig resistance separate mode, basically, Resident Evil Resistance. But the notes that I've got pretty much throughout the gameplay. Zombies still stutter at range. Now, this is something that happened.
Come with me if you want to live.
Thank you so much for all the support, guys. Thank you. The zombies still stutter at range of the character, and this happened in Resident Evil 2 Remake. I was hoping they would have actually gotten that fixed by now, but they still stutter in this, and you'll see their animations move. They'll be moving in the background. Sometimes it'll be nice and smooth, and then it'll be stuttering all over the place, and that's just crap. That's something that they really do need to get fixed up. The button prompt to reduce damage is one of the most stupid features I have ever seen put into a Resident Evil game. It doesn't make sense, it's not needed in this game, and no one ever asked for that crap. It makes no sense that you force a player to button press when he gets grabbed just to reduce damage. That's stupid. If a zombie's gonna bite you, he's gonna bite you regardless, right? Don't tell me that if you fill up the button prompting, he will nibble you instead of biting you. That's a little bit silly. A little bit silly. Just remove that feature. It is not needed. We don't need it. We don't want it. It's pointless. It doesn't make any sense, you know? I don't want a bite me gently prompt. You know, it's stupid. Character control of the flashlight. I think that's something that should have been done in both games, the Resi 2 and Resi 3. It would be nice if the character itself had full control of the flashlight. So, flashlight underneath the handgun, and you can manually control it, maybe. But I think that itself would have been a nicer option. During grabs, defense moments. Now, this is something that Resident Evil 2 utilized. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis never utilized this, but if you've got your dagger on you, if you've got a grenade on you or a flash grenade on you, in Resident Evil 2, the game would prompt you to use that as self-defense. And in this game, you only get a bite me gently prompt. You You can't break out of those grabs and not take damage. And that sucks, because it worked really nicely in Resi 2, and I think would have worked nicely for the remake for Resi 3 as well. The Nemesis mutations of zombie heads into glowy eye tentacle things, I thought that was stupid. I don't understand why they gave Nemesis new abilities that he never had before in the original, but I don't like that. If they would have made that as a separate enemy itself, like something that laid eggs and then it ran around and then harvested zombies, I would have been okay with it. But knowing that the Nemesis caused that crap, I myself don't like it, personally. Let's have a look. What else? We still, one thing I thought would have been really, really, really nice is that the shopkeeper and Marvin would have had a bit of a story arc. Whether you get to control them or whether you get to be with them and spend some time with them, I feel that itself is a massive missed opportunity. Now, hear me out on this. Resident Evil 2, you had Ada's scenario and you had Sherry's scenario. Right? And you've also got to remember, you've got scenario A and B for Claire and scenario A and B for Leon. So why not, in the Nemesis remake, why not do a scenario where you got to take over Marvin, play as Marvin for a bit, and then maybe take the shopkeeper and play his storyline about his daughter and his wife. I think there would have invested a lot more content into the game, which would have lengthened its longevity, making it a longer game, and actually given those two very iconic characters some really key areas of the game to play on. And I think that there is one of the most massive opportunities missed by Capcom. You never know, they may do a separate DLC later on where they charge you or not charge you. We won't know. But I think it should have been already in the game to lengthen its longevity, in my opinion. Nemesis dropping more loot. Now, when you fight Nemesis in the original, he drops a lot of stuff on hard mode. Lots of different guns, loads of ammo crates, healing crates, and an infinite ammo crate as well at one point. In this game, he drops 2 handgun upgrades, and that's it. All the rest is just crappy ammo. So if you fight him at the very beginning of the game, the minute he's introduced, you'll get 1 upgrade. Fight him after he turns the zombie's head into a parasite thing, you'll get the 2nd handgun upgrade. Other than that, you never need to fight him other than when it's a boss fight. So just run away from him and save your time. That, in my opinion, massive missed opportunity there. You could have given Nemesis way more firepower to drop, and that would have been pretty cool. No chimeras, no crows. We've already talked about that. No spiders. We've already talked about that. Blue herbs missing from the game. Again, well, I guess if you don't have spiders, you can't get poisoned. So take away the blue herb. But then again, the blue herb was introduced into the remake of Resi 2 as more of a defense buff, and it's not even in this one. They've just completely ignored the blue herb now. Soon, I guess they'll ignore the red herb and then probably get rid of the blue herbs, the green herbs, and then replace them for Tic Tacs. We won't know. Certain scoreboard timings, the S and the A ranks are the same. I don't really think that's major though, but that I had issues with that. To be fair, there should have been an hour difference between each grade. Tons of key areas missing from the remake, and that's something we've already broken down and gone through each and every one. But other than that, that's basically everything that I've gone through. So I told you guys that this review would definitely be something that you wouldn't want to miss, because I bet a lot of you guys thought that he's loving this game, he's going to give this a great review, this game's going to be like a high 10 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 or something like that. But I have to be really honest with myself. I was so disappointed with the lack of content in this game that it really put a huge damper on the game for me. It really is. If you can speed run this game in an hour and a half, and there's no more replayability in the game at all, what's the point in charging someone 50 quid for it? It's ridiculous. It's really bad. So some of the major key points in terms of negative, massive lacking content. No additional scenarios for key characters like Marvin, Brad, or the gun shop owner. Way too expensive for the content that you're getting. And that really impacts the score quite heavily. It really does, in my honest opinion. It really does heavily impact the scoring. Obviously, the good points is the game looks absolutely stunning and it sounds absolutely stunning. It's a Resident Evil game with, you know, key iconic characters that you love to play as, Jill Valentine or Carlos in the only one game he makes an appearance in. But overall, the game works. It looks great, plays great, sounds great. So it's above average automatically. But is it a really high scoring game for what Capcom did to it? My opinion, no, it's not. It's not. You're overcharging people for something that can be cleared in about an hour and a half if you speedrun it. And there is no other scenarios to do, and there's no other character scenarios you can play as. And if you do end up charging people for DLC, it's cool. I won't be happy myself. I've been a Resident Evil fan since the original game came out on the Sega Saturn and PlayStation. I've bought every game, all the DLC you've ever released, and I will be very, very disappointed if that's what you do with this game. So ultimately, it comes down to a scoring, you know, and a purchase recommendation. Would I recommend you guys run out and buy this game right now? I'm gonna have to say no, not at all. Wait until it gets price dropped because it is ridiculously too expensive right now for what the content is. I would save your money and just wait for it to go into a good sale, or if you're able to go into a game shop, trade some games in against it and make it even cheaper for yourself. But right now, this game on launch week does not have value for content at all. And I would suggest waiting for it to be heavily discounted. Not just £5. I'm talking $24.99, $29.99 tops as a game. And scoring, this has been a tough one for me for sure. And I'm doing my very, very best to ensure that I am not being biased. You know, I'm trying to be as accurate as I possibly can do. But ultimately, though, if I was to give this a grading out of 10, I'm confident with the grading that I've got. So Resident Evil Nemesis, or Resident Evil 3, scores 7.5 out of 10. End review. Done. 7.5 out of 10. Would you guys? Nah, I'm changing my scoring. I am. I'm processing all my information all at once right now. 7 out of 10. Yeah, 7 out of 10.